Hey, what's up, guys? Trevor James here, and today I decided to bring you another deck profile, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Amorphage deck. And this is honestly the more fun version. It's not a competitive version at all, and I know, there's competitive versions and uncompetitive versions. This is just a fun one to just play, every now and then for fun. I do have a competitive build, and I'll be bringing you guys that in a little while, but for now, this is just my standard Amorphage deck, just pure Amorphage, just pure chaoticness, like I guess you could say, but it's not really that competitive. It bricks a lot, but it's just a lot of fun to play. So without further ado, and with that said, let's go to the deck profile. So first up, I run 3 Amorphage Wrath. Amorphage Wrath is kind of just if you guys don't know what Amorphages do, they are basically just the floodgate. So every single one that you put in the Pendulum Zone acts as a floodgate, and then also the fact that when they're on the field and they've basically either been Pendulum Summoned or Flip Summoned on the field, and you have other Amorphage cards, your opponent can't use their extra deck, basically, because the only ones that can be called out of the extra deck is just Amorphage cards. So if your opponent obviously has no Amorphage cards, they can't use their extra deck. So it's kind of like a little bit of a Monarch thing going on there too. But yeah, this guy basically is hatred towards Monarchs, because what he does is, he's not really that great, but he's the one that's, a level 4, so he's super easy to call out when you have a scale. But with him, he makes it so that all Monarchs, all basically monsters can't be tribute summoned during that. So if your opponent is running Monarchs, they can't tribute summon, and they do have to find a way to get over him. But you rarely put him in the scale, only really when you're facing Monarchs. Next up, I have Amorphage Pride. This guy is the other one that's easy to get out, and he's kind of your heaviest beat stick of the team. Amorphage Pride makes it the fact that you can't take burn damage, so that's kind of cool, I guess, but there's not really a lot of decks that use burn damage anymore, unless you're facing Chain Burn or something like that. But if you end up facing those kind of decks or something like that, I guess he could become kind of handy. But he's really primarily used to just call out during the scale and during a Pendulum Summon, and you just got a 1750 attack, and then you get a lot of boost on these monsters. So these monsters become pure crazy beat sticks, and he's the most powerful one because of that, for just a standard level 4. Next up, I run the level 2 Amorphage Gluttony. This guy is probably the most busted one in terms of the scale, because what Gluttony does is Gluttony is the one that makes it so that monster effects cannot be activated. So if he's in the scale and you've got another Amorphage card, monster effects cannot be activated. Sure, he's a level 5, or rank scale 5, so because of that, if you end up putting him and end up running into another scale 5, obviously you can't Pendulum Summon, and sometimes you do have to do that just because of the flow of this deck. But it is really cool because he kind of shuts down a lot of decks in the meta because they can't use effects. So they can't get off any of their effects. They can't do crazy boards because of the fact of that. It's just a really, really good card. So he's basically a Majesty's Fade, and he's just really good for that. The only way to really, for people to get over him is to obviously sack it or kill it, or, get over it with a Kaiju or something like that. Next up, I have Amorphage Lechery. This is the other guy that's kind of a messed up card in today's meta, because your opponent can't use spells while he's in the scale. So he's the other one. Yeah, if you're going to have a Lechery and a Gluttony, you're not going to be able to summon anything because you have a scale 5 and scale 5, and you can't do anything with that. But Lechery is really good because your opponent can't use spells. So really, really good. No one can use spells, actually, unless they're Amorphage cards. So same thing with basically anything, it has to be an Amorphage card. And that's why this is a pure Amorphage build. Next up, I have the Royal Decree, the Amorphage Greed. And he just makes it so traps cannot be activated unless they're Amorphage trap cards. And then he's a scale 3, so it's good to have him and Lechery if you just want to have like a totally broken field and your opponent can't use traps or spells. So kind of fun. And then this is the one I never really use in the scale. It's kind of just the wall card. Because Envy, what it does is it's got a really, really weird scale effect where its Floodgate is your opponent, or no one can use Chainlink 2s, which is kind of weird. So things cannot be used as a response for a Chainlink 2, which that actually happens quite a bit, but it's kind of weird to have that set like that and be like, okay, you know what, you can't chain something with me and blah blah blah. But I don't know, it's kind of cool for what it is. It's not amazing, but it's cool. It's probably the weakest of all of them. And then next up I have Amorphage Goliath, the Dark Law, or the macrocosmos of the deck. Any card that gets sent to the graveyard gets removed from play as long as he's in the scale. And then, with him, because of the fact that he's a higher scale or a higher level, you can't pendulum summon him. But there's other ways to get him out, and he's a crazy, crazy beat stick. So if you have to sack for him, it's okay, I guess, too. And then I have the one Sloth to round up all the Amorphage cards. And Sloth is really good, too, because Sloth basically is the mistake of the deck. Your opponents or you can't search for cards. So, unless they're Amorphage cards. Once again, everything about it is all about Amorphages. For the I don't really have an engine in this deck at all, but just for the standard other cards, I run 2 Yugioh. Yugioh is really good because I don't know why this card exists. I mean, it's literally a free card. Your opponent attacks, you activate it, it comes out of your hand, and then you get to boost one of your monster's attack up. So if you have a really weak Amorphage on the field, and you just need to protect it so you can keep your scale effects going, call out the Yugioh, boost your monster, and then your opponent can't get over it. Like, for instance, taking a Amorphage Wrath and just boosting it up, it's going from 16 to 26, and your opponent really can't get over that for the most part with that kind of thing. So, he's good. He's really good for that. He's just kind of that hand trap that's kind of just a fun card to have. And then I have Luster Pendulum, Draco Slayer, just one of them, along with the Archfiend Eccentric. If you need the higher scales, you do have these. So, really good. If you need the pop effect of him, you have it in Eccentric. If you gotta kill something on your opponent's field in their back row, good for that. And then this card I never really used, sorry about that, I never really used this card right here, Amorphage Pain. He's the ritual card of the deck, basically the boss monster of the deck. I mean, if you read his effect, he has a really nutsy effect, but he also has a really heavy cost. But basically his effect is when he's summoned, your opponent can't do their main phase number 1. Literally kind of weird. I don't understand why they made a monster with that effect, but I guess that's kind of cool. It adds more of a nutsy play to it, and that's why this deck is just really fun, but 9 out of 10 times I never call out this guy. And then you run for spells, you have the Amorphage Infection. This is the main spell, the booster of the deck. Amorphage Infection is 2 effects, so the first effect is while it's on the field, all your Amorphages gain 100 attack for each Amorphage card on the field. That could be your scales, that could be any of your spells, or any of your Amorphages that just have Amorphage in the name. It's a nutsy card because it just boosts up all your Amorphages, and if you look at how many there would be, it just constantly gives them crazy attack. And then if you have more than one, you're getting a crazy boost. And then Infection's other effect is when an Amorphage monster is tributed or destroyed, you get to search your deck for an Amorphage and add it to your hand. So that searching effect is really, really good. Next up, I run 1 Terraforming and then 2 of the Amorphous Personas. This is the field spell. The main reason why I run this is the fact that yes, it'll give a 300 attack boost or whatever, but when your Amorphages are tributed, you get to draw a card. Each time it's tributed twice. So if you can use the effect twice per turn, which is kind of nuts. So it just kind of gives you that draw boost that you really need in this deck. Because without drawing into the cards that you need, it's kind of bad. You can brick a lot, but like I said, it's a fun build. And then to kind of help with the consistency, I run 3 Draco Connection. Draco Connection just kind of lets you substitute 1 card in your hand, so you can take a dragon in your hand, pick a dragon from your deck that's the same level, and add it to your hand, put the other one back in your deck. So it kind of lets you take a Floodgate you don't want during that game, put it back in the deck, and take a Floodgate you do want. It doesn't have to be the same level, so you can't go, oh, I don't want a Macrocosmos right now and switch it out for something else. It can't be that. It has to be the same level. But yeah, Draco Connection is really good for that. This is actually a really expensive card, but it's really good for what it is. And the last spell I run, Upstart Goblin, it definitely, Upstart Goblin, who you don't need an excuse to run Upstart Goblin. It just makes your deck basically 39 cards. And then for the traps, I only run 6 traps. So I run 3 Amorphage Lysis. This is kind of to partner off of the Amorphage spell. What Amorphage Lysis does is for every Amorphage card on the field, once again, in their name, your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack for each one. So once again, just kind of stupid, okay, I'm just going to make your monster go down. And it really does help. But the main thing about this is when an Amorphage card is popped in your scale, you can search your deck for another Amorphage and add it back into the scale. So you can basically take a Floodgate out of the scale if you just don't want that Floodgate and put another one that you wanted into the scale. So really, really good for that. And then the last card that I run is 3 Pendulum Reborn. This card, I can't even tell you, is really, really good. Because if you have no Amorphage on your field and you have to have your scales going off, you need them to go off. So if your opponent finds a way to get over your scale, over your Amorphage card, kill it, and you have no Amorphages, this card is your savior. Because what this does is it lets you take an Amorphage from your extra deck and summon it. It's a free Monster Reborn, basically, just from the extra deck or graveyard, actually. So it's either a Call of the Haunted or Monster Reborn, whatever you want to call it. And it's nuts for that. It's for Pendulums, and you basically just need it in order to actually get that Amorphage back on the field so you can continue your effects. And it's really funny when your opponent does all this stuff just to get over your Amorphage card, and just like, okay, Pendulum Reborn, call it back, and your opponent has no answer to that. You've stopped their effects once again. And then the other thing is it's an easy way to get out Goliath, because if you really want those heavy beat sticks, Sloth or Goliath, go Reborn and get those out, and those will be super busted with all your other cards going on. So that's my deck, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It is the fun build, like I said. I will be putting out a competitive build probably sometime next week. That'll kind of explain a lot of the differences between the two and stuff like that, and why that one's way more competitive. But this is just the fun build, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!